Hello, we are going to install Ubuntu Server 14.04 64-bit along with Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux File Server and Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux Mail Server, in that order. As you can see, we are going to do this within VMWare Player. So we'll first allocate a folder for our virtual machine. And give it a name. Select the hard drive size. I like to do a single file for the hard drive. And away we go. Choose the language. Like so. And a country or territory. And you can adjust your keyboard layout settings. Here you can name your computer. And then choose a username, an account name, and a password. You won't need to encrypt your home directory. And select your closest time zone. And you can just choose the entire disk here if you like, which I'm going to use the entire disk and set up LVM. And yep, the entire disk. And I'll choose yes to write those changes. And yes, I'm going to use the entire disk. And we'll just write those changes to the disk. And away it goes, installing. You can put some proxy server information in that box if you happen to be using a proxy server. I am not using a proxy server, so we shall continue on. It will next ask us if we want automatic updates, in which case you may not want automatic updates if it's a file server. Here you can choose any additional components. We're just going to continue without any components. If we needed any of that additional software, we can install it later on. Which it is good to know how, because you may walk into a situation where the Ubuntu server is already installed without such additional software. We'll need to install the grub bootloader, because obviously if you don't, the operating system's not going to start when you turn the computer on. And there we go, installation complete. We are now ready to boot the operating system and start installing our other software. I'm going to log in using the username and password we chose when we first started up. I am now going to use the ifconfig command to check the IP address of the server we just created, because we are going to need that IP address later on. So I'll just jot down that IP address here for later. Now I'll switch over to the root user prompt by using the sudo su command and putting in our root user password, which we had also set while installing the operating system. And I'm going to create a new group called KL users and a new user called KL user. Then I'm going to add the KL user to the group KL users. That's a user and a group that by default are used by certain Kaspersky applications. And now I'll do an apt-get update to update our software repository. And being a file server, we shall no doubt want to install Samba so we can share files with Microsoft Windows-based computers. We'll use the apt-get install Samba command for this. And choose yes, and away it goes. And now we'll need to install some dependencies required by the Kaspersky software that we'll be installing. So we'll start with the libc6 library and the development package that goes with it for i386. And the development package without the i386. And now we're going to add some 32-bit architecture compatibility to our Ubuntu 64-bit operating system. This is because parts of the Kaspersky software are based on a 32-bit system. So those two commands will get that happening for you. And we install make because there will be some compiling involved. And we're going to install the Linux source code, as that is also required for when one of the Kaspersky software installers compiles some software. The software that the Kaspersky installer does compile from source is relevant to the real-time protection component. And we shall install the build essentials. And I shall now install Apache, so we have some basic web server based functionality. The Kaspersky software we're installing has web browser-based interfaces. I'm going to use Nano to edit one of Apache's configuration files. Yes, that looks good. What we do need to do is add an extra line at the top here. And you make sure you get the capitals and lowercase letters correct, because it is very case sensitive. And that's all you need to add at the top, for now anyway. And we save that. We'll need to restart the Apache service for that change to take effect, which we can do like so. And we need to load some modules. And one more. And then we need to do that restart command it kept insisting that we should do. Like so. And I'm just going to clear the screen there. And we shall and we've already installed the Linux source, so it should just tell us it's already done, and yes, it has already been done. Already got the latest version. We shall, there's no folder there yet, so ls just shows you what's in your current folder that you're in. So we're going to make a folder called downloads, and then we'll go cd our way into the downloads folder. And now that we have all our required dependencies, we are going to download some Kaspersky software. I'm using the wget command for this, as you can see. Just download the files any which way, however you want to download them. That's just how I'm going to download them. I obtained that long download link I'm typing in now from Kaspersky's website. If you go to their support pages to the right download page, you can just get their download link from here. You can right click on that link, go copy link, and then paste it into a text editor like Notepad or gedit, and that's what you type in. Alternatively, if you have SSH set up on your Linux box, you can download just using another computer and using something like PuTTY or FileZilla, you'll be able to transfer the files across. Another way is to install a graphical user interface on your Linux box and then use a web browser like Firefox or Chromium or whatever you like. There's multiple ways how you can go about this, getting the files onto the actual computer. Now that we have downloaded the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux file server, we are going to use the dpkg command to install it. The -I means to install. We need to use the force architecture flag because the installer package is 32-bit based, and that will force it to install on a 64-bit operating system. Now that part of the installation is complete, we need to run a particular configuration file. The file is located at this location I'm typing in right now, which you can get from a few lines up if you just look up about 4 lines. And here we go. You need to agree to the license. You can leave that as default if you like. This section can take a little while, as you can see. It's asking for the activation key file. We don't need to install that just yet. We can wait till we're finished and we can use the web-based interface to install the key file. If we're not needing a proxy, we can just go with the default there. Otherwise, choose yes and put your proxy information in. You'll see there's an error, task 6 isn't started. That's because we haven't put the key file in. Now we are going ahead with the compilation of software, which I mentioned earlier. And that compiled just nicely. And we can choose yes here because we have put a Samba server in place. Yes, we would like to set a password for the web management console. And just choose a password that you'll remember, obviously. This error here about the AVS task not being ready is also because we have not yet put in the activation key file. So no need to panic yet, that is perfectly normal. You can use the ifconfig command to get the IP address again if you didn't jot it down earlier, like we did so. And we shall open up a web browser. The port for the web interface is 9080. Then we put in our web management password that we chose in here. And now we are ready to add the activation key. So we can just browse the key from whichever computer we're on. And it will upload it into our Kaspersky Antivirus. You will notice it says our license has an invalid blacklist. That's because we still need to update the databases now that we have our license in place. So we hit that start button there, and that will take a considerable amount of time. Could take about 20 minutes or so. The license will then be valid, and we'll be able to start the real-time protection. I'm going to skip ahead in time here because no one wants to sit there for half an hour looking at that same screen. So as you can see, the update is finished. Our license is now valid. We can then go to the real-time protection and start it. And now we have the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux file server fully up and running. If you wish to integrate the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux file server with the Kaspersky Security Center, you can download the network agent, which I'm just about to do using the wget command. Like before, you can get that download link from Kaspersky's website from the download page right there. And like before, you can just download it from there and copy the file across if you like. That's purely up to you. Or just use a wget command like I have just there. And I made a typo. So we'll just go back over that and try and find out what I typed wrong. And there it is right there. Now that should work. And we can now use the dpkg command to install the network agent. Again, we use -I to install, and we use the force architecture flag because it is a 32-bit application and we need it to install on a 64-bit computer. And then we put the file name there and away it goes, and that's done. We'll need to run that configuration file it recommends there. Like so. You'll need the IP address or the DNS name of the Kaspersky Security Center. I'm going to use the IP address. So we can just open up the command prompt and use the good old IP config command for that. Yeah, pop that over there where we can see it. And enter that right here. We don't need to change these other settings, we can just go with the defaults. Pretty much all the way for the rest of the questions it asked, right to there. And our network agent should now be running. We're going to confirm the network agent is actually now talking to the security center by running the klnag check command. Which, yes, it is running because you can see it says it connected to the server and connecting to the administration agent was okay. So we should now see it over in our listing of domain computers here under work group. No, it's under, yep, there it is. So we'll create a new group for it and give it some name that's of some relevance, and then you can just drag that computer up into that group. Like so. You should now see it here. From here you can create policies and tasks for it and manage it from the Kaspersky Security Center if you so prefer. There was a double up there from an earlier one I set up earlier. So we'll remove that just to save on confusion. We'll check the properties. We can just rename that. You can rename them to whatever you like. In order to properly manage it though, you still need to download this plugin from Kaspersky's website. And we'll save that to our downloads. Then we'll run that. It only takes a moment to actually install this plugin, as you can see. And we're just restarting the Kaspersky Security Center console. So the changes will take effect. We'll close some other windows there, I had a few open. So we'll restart the Kaspersky Security Center console. And we shall be able to see if that plugin has taken place by just looking over here and seeing it right there. From there, that will allow us to create a policy. So we'll give the policy a relevant name so we know what it's for. And then we find it in our list here. We need to choose at least somewhere for it to scan, so we'll get it to scan the root location, and it'll do all the subfolders therein, so it can do the whole computer. And yeah, make it an active policy, and now we have a policy. And you can go in there and you can change the settings from the Kaspersky Security Center as opposed to using the web interface. And from there we can create an automatic task for, say for example, an update task, so it can update the databases and whatnot. The databases are the databases of known viruses it needs to look out for. So we'll set that to the default option there. Just updating the databases only, and we need to set a schedule. There are many updates in a day available, so it's best to have at least an update every day, if not more. And that's ready to go, so it will update whenever it's scheduled to update. You should now also be able to see that update task we've created right there in the web interface, while the default task is still set to manual. So we'll just leave that as manually, and our update task from the Security Center will do updates automatically for us. I'm going to do another apt-get update before we move on to installing the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux mail server. It's generally considered good practice to do an apt-get update before installing anything else. I'll use the apt-get build dep command to install the dependencies required for PostgreSQL, which is used by the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux mail server. Choose yes here, obviously. Now while that's installing, I'll let you know, if you're not aware already, that the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux mail server is an antivirus for an existing mail server. So you'll need to first have set up either postfix or EXIM or Qmail or sendmail as a fully functioning mail server. Ubuntu server usually comes with postfix already installed, and we can just go ahead and install the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux file server to show you how to install it, even though we haven't configured this system as a fully functional mail server. I'll now use a wget command to download the installer for the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux mail server. I'm going to go back over that, make sure I haven't made any typos. Yep, that's looking pretty good. I think that's going to work. Yep, that's working. That's good. The user interface is actually a separate download, so we'll just bring that link back up again and we'll modify it slightly so we can download the user interface as well. So just put UI there. And then being 64-bit, we can just download the 64-bit version like that. And away it goes. Right, now we're ready to install. Yep, the files are all there. So we'll use the dpkg command and the force architecture command because the mail server antivirus is a 32-bit installer. This unpacking process it's just started doing can take some time. It did take a bit of time for it to actually download the file, so it may take a considerable amount of time to unpack. As you can see there, it's recommending that we run a setup script. So I shall do that. Nope, I changed my mind. We don't have to jump straight into running that script just yet. We can actually install the user interface next, and then we can run the setup script. So we just use the dpkg command again. We don't need the force architecture this time because it's a 64-bit application. That also needs a setup script. So we shall now run both the setup scripts in order. And accept that EULA, the end user license agreement, and that one too. As you can see there, it's using the PostGRE SQL that I mentioned. We can just go with the default there, and there, and there. And we can choose yes there for the web interface. We didn't set a password there for the management interface. That's okay, we can set that up further down the track. We are not using a proxy, so we didn't have to set up any proxy information. Now it's asking for an activation key file. Again, we don't have to put it in now, we can put that in using the web interface. And now we'll run the setup script file for the user interface. And just go through the defaults for most of the options. And yes, we would like to set a password for the web management console. Again, make sure it's something you won't forget. If you need to change the web console password, or you didn't enter the web console password during the setup script, there's a command here you can just type in and then enter the password, which I'll show you right now. And there you go, just re-enter the password. That's all you need to do. I'll again get the IP address of the Ubuntu server using the if command. And we shall now go check out the web interface for our Kaspersky Antivirus for Mail server. The port you need to use is 9045. You'll normally get this not secure message. You just continue on with it. Let it accept it. And then we can use the username is administrator, the full word, and the password we created just a moment ago. Okay, now that we're logged in, we can go straight to installing the activation key. So we just add key there, select our relevant key from the list, load it in there. If it takes too long spinning around and round like that, close that little window and go back in and then see if it's actually activated, because quite often it is and the window just got stuck going round and round and round. And now it's activated and it is fully functional. So you can create additional rules, reports and settings. And that's it. We have now installed the Kaspersky Antivirus for Linux mail server. And as I mentioned, you would still need to configure your postfix or whichever mail server program you're using to be a functional mail server. Thank you for watching, and happy computing!